Trump's war on renewables goes global. What's at stake for the planet? When America's anti-renewable crusade went international, Donald Trump's mind has always been a source of fascination and puzzlement, with his unpredictable viewpoints often appearing to stem from personal grudges and random anecdotes rather than solid facts or research. But there's one subject where Trump has shown remarkable consistency: his absolute loathing of wind turbines, and more recently, renewable energy as a whole. This animosity first erupted publicly in 2011, a full 4 years before his famous golden escalator descent to announce his presidential candidacy, when he launched an ultimately futile campaign against unsightly offshore wind turbines visible from his Gulf resort in Scotland. In what feels like history repeating itself, Trump returned to Scottish soil just days ago to once again rage against wind power. "Wind is a catastrophe," declared the American president during a press conference at his Turnberry Golf Resort in Scotland, standing beside a visibly uncomfortable Keir Starmer. "You're handing over enormous subsidies for these hideous monstrosities that are scattered everywhere." Starmer, responding cautiously, expressed support for a diverse approach that includes wind energy, but notably avoided mentioning the urgent rationale for clean energy. The escalating climate emergency that's unleashing increasingly severe impacts across Britain, America, and beyond. Instead, the British Prime Minister pivoted to the more Trump-friendly narrative of energy independence and security. But here's where it gets truly concerning. Trump's vendetta against wind turbines now carries global implications far beyond his golfing interests. As president, he has implemented a ban on renewable energy developments on federal territories and endorsed spending legislation that eliminates tax incentives that were fueling an explosion in new, clean energy capacity. Experts now predict that new clean energy additions will plummet to half their projected levels over the coming decade. Accompanied by the disappearance of hundreds of thousands of jobs and billions in investments that would have flowed into rural and suburban American communities. It's costly energy, it's unattractive energy, and we will not permit it in the United States, Trump boasted during his Scottish meeting with Starmer. As the planet's second-largest carbon polluter, America's decision to aggressively undermine renewables has profound consequences for our rapidly warming world. Approximately 7 billion tons of additional greenhouse gases are projected to enter the atmosphere in just the next 5 years, more than double India's yearly emissions, as American utility companies revert to gas and coal instead of cleaner alternatives. And this is the part most people miss. Renewable energy remains remarkably competitive despite these setbacks. Wind and solar costs have dramatically decreased over the past decade, making them almost invariably cheaper than fossil fuels, even without government incentives, as the United Nations highlighted last week. Nearly all new electricity generation capacity in America this year is expected to come from renewables. After all, it's not just more economical, but substantially faster to establish a wind farm than construct a gas-fired power station. However, addressing the climate crisis has always been a race against time. Even as renewable technologies advance, they must do so at a dramatically accelerated pace if humanity hopes to prevent cascading climate disasters. The obsession of one man in the White House is effectively applying the brakes precisely when scientists are urgently calling for faster emissions reductions. The retreat from renewables raises geopolitical questions as significant as the environmental concerns. China, a nation Trump frequently criticizes as a competitor, is already far outpacing the world in deploying wind and solar infrastructure. The real reason Trump hates wind turbines, inside his Scottish court battle. Imagine a man who once declared, "I am the evidence," while testifying before a Scottish parliament. This man was none other than Donald Trump, and his testimony marked the beginning of a long-standing feud with wind turbines. This feud, which started in Scotland, has since evolved into a significant policy stance in the world's largest economy. Let's delve into the origins of Trump's opposition to wind energy and explore the broader implications of his views. In 2012, Donald Trump appeared before the Scottish Parliament as an expert witness on green energy targets. He argued that wind turbines were detrimental to Scotland's tourism industry. This was one of his earliest public interventions on renewable energy, and it set the stage for his future opposition to wind power. The specific issue at hand was the construction of 11 turbines near his Aberdeenshire golf course. Trump vehemently opposed these turbines, describing them as some of the ugliest you've ever seen during his latest visit to Scotland. Trump's journey with wind turbines began when he purchased the Menny estate, about 8 miles north of Aberdeen, in 2006. He envisioned creating the world's greatest golf course. However, his plans were soon disrupted by the proposal to build an offshore wind farm nearby. Trump argued that these windmills, his preferred term for the structures, would mar the scenic view. The Aberdeen Bay Wind Farm, completed in 2018, featured the world's most powerful turbines at the time. These turbines generate enough electricity to power up to 80,000 homes and serve as a test and demonstration facility for new technology. Trump's legal battle against the wind farm was intense. He fought the plans through the Scottish courts and even appealed to the UK's Supreme Court, but his efforts were ultimately unsuccessful. The wind farm was constructed despite his objections, leaving Trump deeply frustrated. Since then, he has consistently criticized wind power, urging the UK to get rid of the windmills and bring back the oil during his visit to Scotland. But here's where it gets controversial. Trump's rhetoric often conflates windmills, which are used for grinding grain, with wind turbines, which generate electricity. This semantic confusion is not just a matter of semantics. It's a deliberate attempt to undermine the perceived value of wind energy. Getting rid of wind turbines or even halting their construction would have significant economic repercussions. For instance, the ScotWind initiative, which initially backed 17 new wind farms, now expanded to 20, is expected to bring in about £30 billion of investment over the next decade. Currently, onshore wind projects produce about 4 times as much power as offshore ones, but offshore projects are expected to grow most rapidly in the coming decades. The Scottish government is consulting on plans to increase offshore generation capacity by 40 gigawatts by 2040, enough to power 45 million homes. The growing renewables sector already supports about 42,000 jobs in Scotland, while the oil and gas sector supports 84,000. However, the number of jobs in the renewable sector is on the rise, while the fossil fuel workforce has been declining for years. The North Sea oil boom peaked in 1999, and output has been in decline for a quarter of a century. This decline is due to geology, not government policy, and has been witnessed by multiple prime ministers from different political parties. Despite the declining oil output, Trump remains optimistic about the North Sea's future. From his Aberdeenshire golf course, he posted on Truth Social, urging the UK to incentivize the drillers fast and claiming there is a vast fortune to be made from the treasure chest of oil. Trump has also criticized the UK's taxes on oil and gas production, which include a headline rate of 78% when you factor in the temporary windfall tax in force until 2030. However, this rate is similar to Norway's, which shares the North Sea with the UK. The industry here argues that other Norwegian allowances are more generous. In contrast, tax rates for oil and gas production in the U.S. are much lower, with a 21% federal tax and generous tax breaks, although some state or local taxes are also levied. Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill removes incentives for renewable energy projects, which raises the question, is Trump right when he says wind farms are killing birds? The president has expressed concern about the impact of wind farms on birds, claiming they are killing hundreds. He even mentioned that shooting a bald eagle in the U.S. could result in 5 years imprisonment, but wind farms are killing all your birds. While there is limited solid research on the impact of wind turbines on birds, a significant 2-year study was conducted on the Aberdeenshire site that Trump tried to block. Cameras attached to the towers detected and tracked birds passing through the site, and according to the developers, it didn't record a single bird strike. The research was carried out with the British Trust for Ornithology, but further research is being undertaken globally to better understand how birds respond to the blades. Whatever the outcomes, it's unlikely to change Trump's mind that wind is a very expensive, very ugly energy. And this is the part most people miss. The debate over wind energy is not just about aesthetics or economics. It's about the future of our planet as we grapple with climate change. The role of renewable energy becomes increasingly crucial. Trump's stance on wind turbines is just one piece of a much larger puzzle, and it's a puzzle that affects us all. So, what do you think? Is Trump's opposition to wind turbines justified, or is it a misguided stance that could hinder our progress towards a sustainable future? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below.